What would you do if you discovered a secret in your own home? A secret that would change not just your life, but the lives of two innocent children forever. This is the remarkable true story of Sebastian Ashford, a successful millionaire who thought he had everything until he realized what he was truly missing. Stay with me because what happens next will restore your faith in humanity. But before we begin, if you love heartwarming stories that remind us of the good in this world, please hit that subscribe button and ring the bell so you never miss a story that could brighten your day. Sebastian Ashford wasn't always alone. At 42 years old, he had built a tech empire from scratch. His mansion overlooking the city was filled with expensive art, designer furniture, and the latest technology money could buy. But it was empty. His wife had left him 3 years earlier, tired of being married to a workaholic. There were no children, no family dinners, no laughter echoing through the halls. Just silence. Sebastian threw himself into work even harder, spending 16-hour days at the office, rarely coming home before midnight. His mansion became more like a hotel than a home, a place to sleep before rushing back to the next meeting. That's when he hired Isabel Moreau. Isabel was 35, a soft-spoken woman with kind eyes and calloused hands that told stories of hard work. She came with impeccable references and was hired as his live-in housekeeper and personal assistant. "I just need someone to manage the house," Sebastian had told her during the interview. "I'm barely here anyway." Isabel had simply nodded, grateful for the opportunity. What Sebastian didn't know was that Isabel was hiding something that would change everything. For 6 months, everything ran smoothly. Sebastian would leave at 6 a.m. and Isabel would transform the cold mansion into something almost warm. Fresh flowers appeared on tables, home-cooked meals waited in the refrigerator. The house finally felt cared for. But Sebastian was too busy to notice the small details. He didn't notice that Isabel always insisted on working alone, never accepting his offers to hire additional staff. He didn't notice the extra groceries or the children's laughter he sometimes heard echoing faintly through the mansion's baby monitor system, sounds he assumed came from a neighbor's house. He didn't notice until one rainy Tuesday in October. Sebastian had left for a business trip to New York but had to return unexpectedly when the meeting was canceled. He arrived home at 2 p.m., a time he was never home. As he opened the front door, he froze. Children's laughter, the real kind, coming from his living room. He walked quietly down the marble hallway, his heart pounding, and then he saw them. 2 children were sitting on his expensive Italian sofa. Isabel was in the middle, reading them a story, her voice warm and animated. A little girl with pigtails, about 8 years old, was curled up against Isabel's side, her eyes wide with wonder at the story. And a boy, around 5, was sitting cross-legged on the plush carpet, building an elaborate tower with blocks. The scene was so beautiful, so full of life. Sebastian must have made a sound because Isabel's head snapped up. The color drained from her face. "Mr. Ashford," she whispered, standing quickly. I can explain." Sebastian knelt down to Rosalie's level. "How's school going?" he asked softly. Rosalie looked confused by the question but answered, I got an A on my math test yesterday." "That's wonderful," Sebastian said genuinely. Then he turned to Theo. "And what about you, buddy? What's your favorite thing to build with those blocks?" Theo, still shy, whispered, "Castles." "Castles, huh? I used to build castles when I was your age too." Sebastian stood up and looked at Isabel, who was watching him with a mixture of hope and terror. 5 months, Sebastian said. "You've been doing this for 5 months?" "Yes," Isabel admitted quietly. 5 months, Sebastian repeated. Then, to everyone's shock, he started laughing, not cruelly, but with genuine amazement. You've been running a secret household right under my nose for 5 months, managing 2 kids, keeping this entire mansion spotless, and I never noticed? Isabel, that's actually incredible." Isabel looked confused. "Mr. Ashford?" "Sebastian," he corrected. "Just Sebastian." He took a deep breath. "Here's what's going to happen. You and the children are moving into the main house, properly. No more hiding." "They have that here," Isabel said, "thanks to your kindness." "They need it legally," Sebastian interrupted. He pushed papers across the desk. "Isabel, I'd like to formally adopt them. With you, of course. Co-adoption. I've spoken to my lawyers. We'd both be their legal parents. Equal custody, equal rights. A real family, legally recognized." Isabel's hands shook as she looked at the documents. "I know this might seem sudden, but Isabel, these past months have been the happiest of my life. I love those kids like they're my own. I want to be there for their graduations, their weddings, everything. I want to be their dad, not to replace Gabriel, never that, but to give them the stable, loving home they deserve. What do you say?" 9 months later, the co-adoption was finalized. Sebastian Ashford was now officially the father of Rosalie and Theo Moreau Ashford. But the real celebration wasn't in the courthouse. It was back at the mansion, where Sebastian and Isabel had organized a forever family party. The once sterile living room was decorated with handmade banners created by Rosalie and Theo. The dining table was covered with everyone's favorite foods. Friends, neighbors, and even some of Sebastian's business colleagues attended, many remarking that they'd never seen him so genuinely happy. As Rosalie cut into the celebration cake, she turned to Sebastian with sparkling eyes. "Dad, does this mean we really get to stay here forever, in our rooms?" Sebastian knelt down, pulling both children close. "Forever and always," he promised. "This is your home. Not because I own it, but because you filled it with something I could never buy. Love, laughter, and life." Theo wrapped his arms around Sebastian. "I love you, Daddy Sebastian." Rosalie joined the embrace. "We're so lucky we found you, or you found us." Those words Sebastian never thought he'd hear, made everything worthwhile. Isabel watched the scene, tears of joy streaming down her face. Over the past year, she and Sebastian had become a true partnership, co-parenting, supporting each other, building something beautiful from desperate circumstances. That desperate decision she'd made a year ago, sneaking her children into a stranger's mansion, had seemed reckless and wrong, but somehow it had led to this, a grieving family finding hope again, a lonely man discovering purpose, and 2 children learning that sometimes life's greatest blessings come from the darkest moments. Later that evening, as Sebastian tucked Theo into bed, the boy asked, "Daddy Sebastian, do you think my first daddy knows about you?" Sebastian thought carefully. "I think he does, buddy, and I think he's grateful that I get to love you and your sister." "I think so too," Theo said sleepily. "I think he sent us to you." As Sebastian turned off the light, he realized Theo might be right. Sebastian had entered that mansion a millionaire, but he'd found something far more valuable than money. He'd found his family. Sometimes the greatest treasures in life are the ones we never knew we were looking for. Sebastian thought he had everything, but it took 2 unexpected children and a courageous mother to show him what he was truly missing. If this story touched your heart, please give it a thumbs up and share it with someone who needs a reminder that beautiful things can come from unexpected places. And remember, you never know how one act of kindness might change not just someone else's life, but your own. Until next time, keep believing in the good in people.